You'll notice we're starting on slide 30. The material prior to this is really what's happening inside the muscle cells or between the muscle cells, what's happening with the different ions being released. And at this point today, I'm not making you responsible for that, but I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind next week. So we're going to start on slide 30, and this is what you're responsible for as it stands today. We're going to talk about motor units. So a motor unit consists of a muscle cell and its associated neuron. Well, you know what neurons are. We've covered that in quite a bit of detail. So you see the axons of the neurons reaching out and synapsing with individual muscle fibers or muscle cells. You'll notice that these particular muscle cells are multinucleated and striated. Do you see those bands? Those are striations. And those ovals that are kind of bluish are nuclei. So they're multinucleated and striated, and that'll mean something to you in a little bit. You'll see that one motor neuron can synapse with more than one muscle band. Now, what is recruitment? When you contract a muscle, if other muscles then jump in and also contract to help it, that's recruiting. You're recruiting other muscles to help with a particular movement. You have different types of motor units. Some are small, and when I say small, it is by diameter. The axon is small. The small ones are the first to be recruited, and then the larger motor units come in second. Understand what muscle tone is. It's a continuous state of partial contraction in a resting muscle. So if you think you're resting, completely relaxed, you have skeletal muscle that is still has tone to it. It is still supporting or holding in some way or another, even in a relaxed state. You have different types of contractions, and you guys probably already know this language. You have an isotonic, which is tonic means tone, iso means same. So in an isotonic contraction, the muscle contracts with equal force or tone. Tone and force are the same. So you can have a concentric, which the muscle shortens while it contracts, or you can have eccentric, the muscle is lengthening while it contracts. Now that may seem to be an oxymoron, but a muscle can sustain an equal amount of force while it elongates. And then you have isometric contractions. You know what a meter is. It's a measure of length. So iso, same, meter, length. A muscle contracts but holds the same length. You have different types of muscle fibers. You have slow twitch muscle fibers and fast twitch. Slow twitch are type 1 fibers. Fast twitch are type 2. Consider the difference between maybe someone who jogs, maybe a marathon person, and if you see someone training, they're not moving as fast. I mean, it simply is what it boils down to, as compared to a sprinter. A sprinter is going to have developed a lot more fast twitch muscles or type 2 muscles, whereas a marathon runner is going to have a lot more type 1 muscles. Let's take a look at why, or maybe some of the differences between them. Type 1, or slow twitch fibers, are almost always oxidative. Now, every cell has the ability to engage in fermentation. But slow twitch muscle fibers, cells, have an enhanced ability to do cellular respiration or oxidative respiration, respiration that requires oxygen. Because of that, they are resistant to fatigue. Now, resistant to doesn't mean that they can't be fatigued. They're just resistant to it. And they tend to be red fibers. They're abundant in myoglobin, good blood supply, many, many mitochondria. That's why they're really good at cellular respiration. They can pump out a lot of ATP. And anytime you want a cell to do work, you have to have ATP. It's the only way cells do work. Let's move to fast twitch. Now, fast twitch are divided into two types, A and B. You have fast twitch, fatigue resistant. Basically, if we went from slow twitch to fast twitch B, those two would be opposites. Fast twitch B is anaerobic, so you know it as fermentation. So fast twitch type 2B muscles rely heavily on anaerobic respiration or fermentation. They're white muscle. So they have less myoglobin, poor blood supply because they're anaerobic, fewer mitochondria, and they are susceptible to fatigue. So those fast twitch muscles will let you sprint right now for a particular distance, which is great. When you throw a sharp stick at a bison standing in a field, and that bison takes exception to it and decides he's going to come and play with you with his horns, you need to be able to get out of there really fast. These are the muscle fibers that keep you alive, but you can't run forever, at that speed at least, because they are susceptible to fatigue. And anaerobic respiration tends to build up what byproduct? Well, there's two types of anaerobic respiration. There's alcoholic and lactic acid. So anaerobic respiration will rapidly build up lactic acid, and the muscles will become painful and eventually completely fatigued. And if you have not outrun the buffalo at that point, you are now field fodder. So we go back to fast twitch type A, and they're kind of the muscles that are in between slow twitch and fast twitch. They're also white muscle fibers, and if you eat chicken, you know that chicken legs tend to be dark meat. They're going to be slow twitch type 1 muscle fibers, and chicken breast is white meat. So they are fast twitch or type 2 muscle fibers. Chicken legs are better, by the way. So clinical applications. You can have hypertrophy or atrophy. Hypertrophy of a muscle is when the muscle's getting bigger, usually in response to a stimulus like exercise, and atrophy either from disuse or some pathogenic process. Different types of muscle. So we have skeletal muscle and smooth muscle. The smooth muscle tends to be shorter. What else do you need to know? They lack striations, and that's important. Smooth muscle lacks striations. So there's three types. There's skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Both skeletal and cardiac have striations, whereas smooth muscle doesn't have striations. Okay, two types of smooth muscle, the multi-unit and visceral. Just know they exist. Smooth muscle, moving on. Okay, we're going to skip the rest of those, and we're going to come right on down to this table. So, give me just a second here. I am recording. This table kind of captures it all between skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. This will show up on your Quizlet, so it will be a test item. I don't think I need to go through and read all the different parts of it. On to skeletal muscle. The different lever actions, I'm not going to test you on that. I don't think this needs to be said, because I think you guys already all understand this, that muscles work across joints, and as such, they serve as working across a lever. So there's different types of levers, as you can see in this slide. It depends where the fulcrum point is and where the attachment of the muscle is in relation to the load. This is showing one type of lever, and the joint itself becomes the fulcrum. Now, every muscle has an origin and an insertion. The origin is the less mobile end. The insertion is the more mobile end. These two terms are very important. Make sure you understand them. And if you were to look here at an example of the biceps brachii, the proximal end, where the ligaments are considered the origin, and the distal end, the insertion. Okay, these terms could show up on your test. Now, you have an agonist and an antagonist, and you may be familiar with these terms through literature. The agonist is what causes the action, and the antagonist will oppose it. So, if you're flexing your arm using your bicep, the bicep muscle is the agonist. But what muscle causes the opposite action, or extending the arm at the elbow? And that would be the triceps brachii. And that's the antagonist. Now, an agonist is probably going to be the prime mover. So in the movement of flexing the arm at the elbow, the prime mover will be the biceps brachii, but you have other muscles that assist that action. They're synergists. They assist the agonist, such as the biceps brachii. Or, I'm sorry, the brachioradialis is what I meant to say there. The brachioradialis is a synergist in flexion of the elbow, and then the triceps would be the antagonist. That brings us on to looking at the major skeletal muscles of the human body. And there's a lot. So you have a lot of material to work through. This one starts with facial expressions, and some of these will show up on your test. They'll be in Quizlet. And there's the picture so you can see where they're at. Notice origin, insertion, and action come in. Nerve supply, I think I'm going to include that as well. So basically, as we go through, these tables are what you really need to focus on. And then you have to be able to identify the muscle by looking at an image like this. Oh, TMJ syndrome, temporomandibular joint syndrome. So if you know where the TMJ is, it's where the mandible articulates with the skull. So as you move your jaw, open your mouth and close it, you can go just anterior to your ear, and you will feel the joint right there. That's the TMJ joint. Now, all kinds of things can happen where that joint becomes partially misaligned, or the meniscus of the joint gets folded on itself, and it can cause all kinds of pain. If you are a grinder at night, you grind your teeth by clenching them, that can wear out the cartilage in the TMJ joint, causing problems later or causing it to misalign. So then the TMJ can be a difficult joint to treat, and when it's painful, eating is painful, sometimes even talking. Okay, muscles that move the head and vertebral column. Origin, insertion, action, and nerve supply for all of these. And there's the image. And then we have the muscles that move the pectoral girdle. And there's the image. We have the muscles that move the arm. Don't worry about this image. That won't show up. Again, muscles moving the arm. This one could show up. Muscles that move the forearm. Muscles that move the hand. Now, you know where to get this PowerPoint. It's already in Course Sites under Chapter 9. So you can download this, start at slide 30, and somewhere around 50 is where the actual muscles and tables begin. Forearm, abdominal wall. We're not going to do the pelvic floor, so skip this one, but we will do the thigh. And there's one image of the thigh, and here's another image of the thigh. We'll do the leg. And there's that. I won't include this. So cross sections are out. And then the foot. That takes us here, and I think that's the end of it. I won't include a cross section, so that's a cross section, and then lifespan changes will be included. That's the entire presentation for the muscle system. And while it may be a short presentation, it's got a lot of information you guys have to start working through. I believe I have the Quizlets posted. I'll double check that. If not, they will be by today. They'll be posted in Course Sites, and maybe I'll try pushing them out through Remind as well. That's the end of the muscle system lecture, part 1, and I'm going to end the recording.